What's going on, guys? JPS back for another video, and today we're going to be reacting to how does German parenting differ from the United States? Parenting is everything. You know, how your kid will behave in the future. You give them to the stepping stones for and the foundation for their life in a lot of ways with how they are parented. Some parents can be too, overbearing and always like helicopter parents, they're called, always wondering where their kid is and keeping tabs on them. And then on the other hand, you have parents who are just neglectful of their kids and they don't really check on them or worry where they are. And those kids can get in trouble. I think the best parenting is something in the middle. You need to be authoritative in certain situations, but you also have to give your child the freedom to make their own decisions. Because if you're always telling them what to do or making choices for them, how will they behave when you're not there and they have to make a choice for themselves? It's not, very constructive for them being individuals and leading their own lives. So I think American parents a lot of times can be a bit too much helicopter parents, especially nowadays with technology. Everyone has their kid's location on the phone. So they're worried about where their kid is and things. And this is such a stark contrast from what growing up in earlier generations was like. Even for me, I'm not even that old, but this whole location tracking thing and this social media was coming up when I was growing up, but it wasn't what it is today. And imagine people before me when social media wasn't even a thing. There was just so much more freedom and less eyes on you, which is, I think, for the better in a lot of ways. It allows people to make mistakes and not worry as much. And that's what life is about. It's not about someone constantly being like, you can't do this, you do this, do this. So I know that parenting in Germany, from what I've seen, very hands off. I'm walking down streets in the center of Berlin, kids riding their bicycles on the sidewalk, alone, little kids. I'm talking like 5, 6 years old. I was like, whoa, where are your parents? Like, are you guys safe? What's going on here? Because this is something you will almost never see in the United States. Almost never see. Like, it would raise some eyebrows. People would be like calling the cops, Child Protective Services. Why is there a kid without their parent? What's going on? And to be fair, American society, I would say, is not as safe as Germany. Even in a big city like Berlin, I feel way safer than any city in the United States because obviously the guns are not as really a threat and the people are more chill. So let's get right into this, guys. Here we go.
Is Germany safer for kids than the US? Why do German children travel to school alone so young? And is it true that German playgrounds are actually built to be dangerous? Let's find out.
What?
I first came from the US to Germany to work as an au pair, which is basically a nanny abroad. On the first day, I met my host family, and we all went to the playground together. As their 7-year-old, who would soon be my responsibility, climbed up to the top of this somewhat terrifying-looking playground, the parents asked me to join them for a walk across the park. Shouldn't we ask little Nicholas to come with us? I asked. Oh, him? Nah, he'll be fine up there. We'll see him when we come back, they said. That was my first clue that playtime in Germany is a little different than I was used to in the States. I've since learned that German parents just tend to be more relaxed about their children than American parents. For example, I was shocked when I first saw kids in Berlin around age 6 or 7 taking public transport to school by themselves. This would never happen where I'm from, but it's pretty normal here. Unlike American children, German children are not typically watched every second. They're expected to learn life skills early and be independent.
Ich habe immer sie machen lassen. Ne? Und wenn sie gesagt hat, nee Mama, ich will das alleine machen, nicht festhalten, habe ich das auch nicht gemacht.
Später wollen sie auch nicht immer bei den Eltern sein, dann wollen sie halt die Welt selber entdecken. Dann ist man halt in der Nähe, verfolgt es. Ich meine, gerade das gehört ja zum Großwerden auch dazu. Und dann sollen sie auch ihren eigenen Weg gehen dürfen.
So-called free-range parenting doesn't exist here in Germany the way it does in the US, because that kind of parenting is just the standard here.
Yeah.
So is Germany really that much safer than the States? Growing up in Ohio in the 90s and early 2000s, I was allowed to run around alone with my friends. Now some of my friends are parents themselves and wouldn't think of letting their kids do that. Safety is a big concern for American parents today, especially with all of the frightening headlines about children being abducted. There were around 375,000 reported entries for missing children in the US in 2023. In Germany, it was just over 90,000. Compared to each country's population, though, it works out to be about the same percentage of kids missing. But in both countries, the chances of a child being abducted by a stranger is actually quite small. And the person responsible is usually a parent or family member who doesn't have custody of the child. And in both countries, nearly all missing children are actually recovered. Here in Berlin, I more often hear parents worried about their kids crossing a busy road or photos of them being posted on social media. So
no, facts. That's why the crosswalk is such a big deal. You know, crossing when it's green rather than jaywalking and doing all that stuff. That's why the adults want to set an example in Germany of following the rules, because that's a safer thing to do, of course. I think a lot of the fears in the United States it's a lot of just people being scared because of the news and the headlines and stuff. But when you're really out there, okay, obviously the gun thing, it's never not going to be scary. That it just sucks. But the child abduction rate is like the same. I'm pretty sure Germany's population is like 80 million. We're well over 300 million. Proportionally, that is almost even. And people are always worried. That's one of the biggest fears or concerns that American parents have, is that their child will get abducted or something crazy will happen to them. But again, like, this is part of being a parent. I think the hardest part, I'm not a parent, so I can't really speak on this, but based off of, you know, seeing my parents as I was growing up, letting go is a very hard thing to do, because there are risks associated with that. Anyone can die at any moment. That's just part of life. So letting go of your child, you know, my parents were hands off. They let me go to school, walk to school alone. And it wasn't the safest neighborhood as well. I saw a lot of, you know, crime and things like that. But it's just part of life. You know, if you grow up in an environment like that, you will develop street sense and intuition to navigate through different environments and situations safely. You know, it's not that, it's just, if you're given the freedom to actually learn about that, then you're going to be better equipped in the future. And now that I'm older, I feel safe almost anywhere, because I know how to approach situations and conduct myself in different environments, which is a good trait to have. And kids who are just pent up in the house all day, they're never allowed to go out or do anything. When they're finally let loose and free, they do dumb shit and they get off the chain, and then they get in big trouble or they get messed up. And that's because they never had that freedom to really ease into things and learn about life. Because if you're just always on a leash, you're not really free. You're like a dog. So what happens when you let the dog off the leash, when a dog's never been off the leash? Start running around going crazy. It's like kids who never get to drink growing up, then they go off to university. Like, you know, they act stupid and do dumb things. I understand where they're coming from, but that's not the right way to parent, in my opinion.
Parenting styles between the two countries does seem to be cultural. It's simply more normal for German parents to let their children out of sight than American parents. Tori Buch, an American living here in Berlin, is adjusting to the German style of parenting after having her first child here.
I think German parents are just a little more relaxed, a little more chill, like less obsessed with, I have to track everything, I have to know everything about my child, where they're doing things, when they did something. And there's a lot more of an attitude of kids will develop the way they develop, and we don't need to be so observant and so careful about tracking every little thing.
Tori tries out her German-inspired parenting style on the playgrounds here, which look a little different from what we're used to in the US.
I love German playgrounds. I think they're amazing. Like, I think the problem in the US is we have a very cookie-cutter notion of, like, a playground has to look like this and have these features. And I feel like here the attitude is a lot more, kids are kids, they love to be creative, they love to explore and have different experiences, and so let's give them really varied playgrounds.
I know what she means. My playgrounds growing up mostly looked like this.
Lame.
Colorful, plastic, not too high, no sharp edges. So I was shocked when I first saw German playgrounds, often metal or wooden with more natural features and lots of character and whimsy.
Some are downright terrifying, even for me as an adult.
To be honest, the first thought in my American brain was that German playgrounds look like a lawsuit waiting to happen. But
I'm gonna be honest though, with all those netting, it would be very hard to fall. Like, you have to have no coordination. This is I like this playground idea a lot.
That they're actually built with risks involved on purpose. The idea is that children who face risks while playing will learn to better manage tricky situations and thus better manage their adult life later.
In fact, studies show children who don't face these risks are more prone to things like obesity, mental health issues, a lack of independence, and a decrease in learning, perception, and judgment skills.
Hey.
So while Americans tend to build their playgrounds as safe as possible, Germans tend to build theirs as safe as necessary. Even insurance experts in Germany agree. They recommend playgrounds with calculated risks involved, balanced with safety features to promote problem-solving skills. You might think American playgrounds can't look like this because Americans are more likely to sue when their child gets hurt. But actually, despite the stereotype, Americans are less likely to sue than you might think.
Only a small percentage of civil court cases in the US actually involve personal injury, and most of those are related to car accidents.
The difference is Germans are less likely to win millions in a lawsuit against a playground where their child got hurt. That's because the sense of personal responsibility is strong here, and you're expected to accept the risks at the places where you go.
I mean, that's how it should be. Americans always trying to flip it for money. I'm gonna sue you. Man, shut up, bro. Just live life. You're always worried about some... It's so annoying. Litigation. I'm gonna take you to court. You hear these phrases all the time in the US. Like, people see something and they think, money. Oh, I'm gonna let this car hit me and they can pay for my tuition. That's the thought that goes through people's mind. It's always worried about a battle for money instead of just living life.
But I was really surprised to learn all this, and I have to say, I prefer the German playgrounds. So how does this all compare to your country? Are children also given this much freedom there? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, it's so true about the cookie cutter playgrounds though. A lot of American playgrounds, they're just downright boring. And I remember that growing up as a kid, I was like, you go down this rubber slide and there's not really places to climb or do too much. So you make the things riskier yourself, climb up things that shouldn't be climbed up. That's what I did with my friends, and that was fun. But really great video, guys. I'm definitely more of a fan of the German parenting style. I think that a lot of parents are influenced by their surroundings, their friends, how they parent the kids, and of course, the societal and cultural norms when it comes to parenting. And these norms are very strong, weighing on parents in the United States of having to be there for the kid and being worried about the risks and things happening to their children. But I think if you actually live in Germany and you're around other parents who are very hands-off, it will be much easier for you to do so. So again, being surrounded in that environment where the view and philosophy in raising children is much more liberating and completely different from the United States would be way more beneficial than trying to implement these in the, this style of parenting in the US. It would be really hard. It's like going against the grain. And a lot of people, your kids' friends, parents would be like, why are you letting them do this? You're making my kid do this, and all that type of stuff. So best option is to move to Germany if you're going to have kids, I guess. And free education too, free university. That's a big plus as well. But yeah, guys, enjoyable video. Thanks so much for watching. If you have kids in Germany or you're raising kids or you're thinking about having kids, whatever the case is, let me know your thoughts on what your parenting style will be or how parenting is in Germany. And I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks so much, guys. Peace.